remember where you were or what you were doing at the time?
I could tell you that clear as crystal. On that day, I had taken some holiday, and my wife was pregnant with our third child. And so we were playing Scrabble at that time. My phone rang, and it was my mother and father. And they called me and they said, "What are you all doing in Montserrat?" I said, "What do you mean what we're doing? I'm home and we're playing Scrabble and it's lovely." And my mother said, "Son, they said that some stuff is falling from out of the ear."
I remember myself and some of the guys from St. John's. We always play softball cricket at St. John's School. And while we were playing cricket, we heard this like loud noise coming from somewhere, and we just couldn't tell what happened. We see people running, so we just run in the same direction that everybody was running also. So we head through the back road and head through the follow people and end up in Longdon area watching all of this.
Where I lived in Trials, okay, as I push open my kitchen door, I could see the mountain right in front of me. And at night you were hearing these sounds.
And we were actually bringing it down to some a jet engine that was, a plane, a jet that was passing.
That morning, I remember the police and the defense force, they decided. I remember that like clear as today. They say we say we're going to look. Volcano doing, but we say we're going to look for volcano. Can you imagine? It was a bit surprising for them to hear me saying, well, that's not where the volcano is. And I tell them I believe and I have an idea where the volcano is. And they were like, what are you saying? Look, and so I tell them, the theory I have is on Chances Peak, there was a pond. I don't know, maybe you heard about it. They say there were mermaid in the pond. They find mermaid. What mermaid doing all the way up there? I don't know. But there was a pond, and that pond, that is the pond we used to get our water to mix our concrete and everything. And to me, it just come back to me straight, and I said, this always looks like a crater.
I eventually called the then Prime Minister, Mr. Lester Bird, and I indicated the situation to him, and I gave him a number of scenarios. Say, look, if the volcano erupts, Antigua is the closest to Montserrat. We have a long relationship between both islands. Lots of Montserratians have relatives in Antigua and so on. And I said to him, if they have to evacuate, we may have to prepare to house them until the volcano situation is resolved. And he said something to the effect, so where would we house them?
Hello everyone, I'm Nia Golden, a singer and filmmaker. Originally, the plan was to continue the work I've been doing around Montserrat's Calypso culture. After singing backing vocals in the annual Calypso competitions, I became fascinated by how much of Montserrat's history and identity is captured in our music. In 2019, I launched the Calypso songwriting series, followed by a documentary in 2022, and last year I completed my Bachelor's with Honours in Musical Theatre with a first-class, award-winning dissertation on the subject. So with the 30th anniversary of the start of volcanic activity approaching, I set out to explore how Calypso documented that crisis, how it helped us make sense of what was happening. But as I began my research, I realized there were other parts of the story I needed to understand. This event impacted everyone across class, age, education, and nationality. So I started asking questions, and each conversation led me to someone else, and then someone else. The more I listened, the more I realized that this moment in our history was and still is so much more than we've been able to capture, report, or even fully process. This project has evolved from a single documentary to a docu-series. It will focus on the small moments that made a big impact on how Montserratians lived through that experience. I'd like to feature a few of those small moments with you today. The song One More River to Cross is in the top 3 of Calypso songs interviewees mentioned as having an impact on them. It was chosen as the title of the series to further explore this idea of the journey that Montserratians have been on since that first rumble. Another popular calypso was Woman in the Shelter by Randy Zunky Greenaway, who shared the origins of the song with me.
Up to the 1990s, there were several women living at various locations around the island who lived simple lives, occupying humble dwellings and sustaining themselves by farming. Many of them were elderly, and this essentially was the only life they knew. The volcanic crisis disrupted their peace. It forced them from their abode and at the same time destroyed their lifestyle for good. That loss took its toll. Woman in a Shelter tells the story of that experience. Over the years, many have expressed how closely they themselves or someone they knew well can identify with the story.
I hear a woman in a shelter bawling.
Woman in a shelter bawling.
Listen.
The ability to find laughter in the middle of tough times is not a new phenomenon, and this was the case during those early years.
Ash taught me how theatre could actually affect life and make an impression on people. The piece was called 142. Basically, she told this whole story about getting a calculator from her daughter for her Christmas. She thought it was a stupid gift. Now she's into these volcanic times. She decides she's going to take on the calculator and calculate, because at that point the government was giving out food vouchers to people. She worked out how much money they were giving her. And basically, after she had paid her electricity and her water and everything like that, she ended up per meal would be like $1.42. Hello, you on the floor, dying with laughter at how the whole thing was broken down and told. But in fact, it was the truth. It changed government policy. I remember clearly after that speaking to the financial secretary, who said they had to look at how much people were actually getting after that, because it didn't make sense. And it was actually increased because of that. It was filled every night. And what we did was special performances in which they will actually bus in people from shelters so they could come and see the productions.
Police officer at the time, Leroy Luke, shares how prisoners played an important role in helping to set up the monitoring infrastructure for the scientists.
Those days, even before the volcanic eruption, the prisoners always doing work. You'll see them by the governor's house, cleaning the yard, cutting the grass, pruning the flowers. So prisoners always used to come out. Certain prisoners, they always allow them to come out, do stuff and go back in. And I would take like 6 prisoners with me and we would go up to the mountain and build the seismic station. So a lot of the seismic stations you see around the volcano, I was the one who built them. When I used to go and pick up these guys were like rushing me. They like, everybody want to come out. Oh, look, pick me.
Students became experts in predicting what the ash clouds would do.
We started school in Church Road, at Church Road campus. On the first day of school, we got the rundown as to what we needed to do should anything happen. I remember Mrs. Watts was saying to the teachers, those who had vehicles at the time, always park with your vehicles with the front out.
We were supposed to meet in a central place. If it was that it erupted when we were still in class, then you were to stay in the class, and the teacher who was teaching you at the time would remain in the class with you. I remember the day that eruption happened. Everything went out the window. As soon as the eruption started, because the cloud was thick, the volcanic plume was thick, and it was very, 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 the cloud itself was very, very dark, and the darkness was coming towards the school. And of course, it seems like the wind direction those days was just blowing towards the town.
If you know Church Road campus, once you get out onto that road, it was to take you to the north. Just run. Catch anything that was moving.
People were running towards the gates. Everyone was heading towards the gates. And I remember persons were driving out of town at the time, and nobody cared who they were. Cars would stop and pick up people. If somebody had a pickup, the pickup truck stopped. Who could jump on, and everybody headed to the north. Nobody stopped to ask, well, I wonder if and who. Afterwards, I think everybody found out where their parents were and stuff like that.
Some days when it wasn't windy, well, we knew we had enough. We had quite some time to leave because it would just go up and take some time before it blows over. On the days we knew it was windy, we knew, hey, we didn't have much time because the wind was going to bring the ash down our way very shortly. So there were days we had a little time to play with and days we just had to get going.
So overnight, you have to try and find what you're going to do with the children. Because we have, as you say, 4th and 5th preparing for exams. We have the younger thing. So we have all the children to think about. We peeped under people's houses. We beseeched homeowners and literally begged individuals to come to our rescue.
We had classes in garages. We had classes in bedrooms. We had classes in living rooms, on porches, in kitchen. Wherever there was a space in a house, there would have been a class. I remember doing CXC right in the A studios. So that's a piece of history there.
The CARICOM community supported Montserrat in small ways and big, not just on an official level.
A very strange thing happened, something that have not been talked about a lot in this process. We all got down to the dock. By this time, I became very friendly with the fishermen who fish in that area. And I'll wave to them and say, how far are you going? And they say, I'm going down to Sisters, or I'm going to this place or that place, and say, I have a package here from Montserrat, you want to drop it off for me? Say, no problem, man, bring it. And they'll pick it up and take it. That went on for several months without any fees at all. And so I might want to use this opportunity to thank those guys who made that particular process so seamless and I dare say maybe thankless as well, because it wasn't publicized in any significant way.
What you've seen is just a glimpse of what more than 30 people have shared with me so far. I feel deeply honored to help bring their memories to light. I am enjoying the process of uncovering the stories and creating an integrated timeline of what was happening in different spheres of life. Please scan the QR code on the screen for more information about the project, where you can send me an email or find out how to contribute. I'm also currently looking for sponsors to help complete this project. You can choose to support a single episode or the entire series. Thank you to the organizing committee of the SHV 30 conference for the opportunity to share a bit of One More River to Cross with you today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.